Hello and welcome to another stirring edition of How to Survive. This week we're talking about Dawn of the Dead, and I'm joined of course by George A. Romero, the director of the film. Oh sorry, it says here Chris Morris, my regular co-host. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Sorry to disappoint you.
No, it's fine. Of course, George A. Romero was never scheduled to appear.
No.
So you will have to do.
Yeah, I'm hopefully I can fill in for him.
Yeah. Are you as intimate with the film as he is?
I think more intimate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The film, as we said, Dawn of the Dead, this is the 1978 version, not the 2004 remake. So we're going to be talking about the film a bit. We need to establish what we need to know in order to survive if we were to find ourselves living in it. Mm-hmm. So we'll start off by saying, did you enjoy the film, Chris?
Yeah, I think broadly. Mm-hmm. I mean, we watched the extended version.
Right.
There's a number of different cuts.
Yeah, there's the European cut as well.
Yeah, like the Dario Argento version and all that sort of thing. I think we watched the extended version.
Right, the
which is
opening hours.
2.5 hours long.
The extended mall opening hours, I think it's called.
Right. Okay. Mm. Yeah, it was good. I think it's showing its age.
Yeah.
And showing its low budget.
Exactly.
It's quite interesting how a film that's way more a satire than it is a horror film became so influential on a load of horror films. Exactly.
I think it's very easy to consider it an influential zombie film because that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, this is probably an early... Well, I mean, it's 10 years after Night of the Living Dead, but it's still fairly early in the zombie genre.
Yeah.
So, in that sense, it's going to be influential.
Mm. It's interesting how, with the slasher films we were talking about, how sometimes... Or, you know, there must have been a decision at some point to have, like, the element that we're taking from this film is that teenagers who have sex get murdered because it's such a strong trend. It's like with the zombie films, it's like, you know, they just whitewashed any elements of satire out of the genre. Just had loads of generic zombie films.
Exactly, yeah. I think we'll come to the satire in more detail, but let's recap on the plot.
Sure.
So we open on two scenes which sort of set the scene for the characters as we know them. We're introduced to Stephen and Francine, who work for a TV studio, and they plan to escape all the chaos via a helicopter. Yeah,
Stephen's the helicopter pilot, the flyboy.
Yeah, as he's known. And next we're introduced to a police raid on a building, and it's filled with zombies, and the two sort of policemen we're focused on are Peter and Roger. The four end up meeting at the chopper, kind of by accident, but they agree to leave together. And they're flying across the country, and eventually they end up at a shopping mall, which has been overrun by zombies. Luckily, though, for them, they find a secret entrance on the roof to a room which is filled with things called survival aids, or survival items.
It's like, you know, rations and things.
Yeah, it's lucky that was. So they live in the mall for a while. They have a few run-ins with the zombies, but ultimately they make it inhabitable and safe. Until Roger becomes bitten by a zombie and succumbs to whatever unseen force is causing people to turn to the zombies. Yeah. Eventually their safe house is discovered by a gang of bikers who break in, tear things up, and amid a great gunfight, Stephen, who's kind of
almost the protagonist.
Yeah, almost. But I think all four characters are very likeable in their own way. But he becomes surrounded by zombies and he turns into one. And Peter and Francine escape by the chopper. So those are the sort of key plot points. So you said you enjoyed it, but it's showing its age, and I would agree with that. I think the makeup was absolutely shoddy.
Yeah, like grey makeup, like face paint.
Yeah, exactly. If you went to someone's Halloween party dressed like that, they'd say it was very, very lazy.
It was poor.
Yeah. But it was amazing because, you know, we're a big fan of IMDb trivia and how awful it is. Yeah. Here's a couple for you about the makeup, which I find astounding. It took up to 3 hours in makeup to transform someone into a zombie.
Right.
Which, to me, it looks like they just wiped grey paint on their
sponge
face.
of grey face paint, yeah.
And apparently, some of the cast were made physically sick by the makeup work.
Is that as in, like, people's wounds were so...
Yeah, because they do have quite a few impressive sort of head explosions and decapitations and things. Yeah. I'm assuming it's not the grey skin.
No, there's the head explosion near the start, which is quite, like a gunshot blows up a zombie's head, which is quite...
it's very impressive, isn't it?
Yeah. But the overall... Like, I think watching it now, it all just seems, like, faintly strange. Yeah. And I think, like, we say this a lot, but you have to watch it, like, taking into account the fact that it's, like, it's what, nearly like 40 years old.
Yeah.
Like,
But I wonder whether it would ever have been that scary. The makeup looks so fake; it's unbelievable.
yeah,
I think if you take it more of the route of it's a satire,
yeah,
then it doesn't really matter. You say,
No.
"Oh, these people are zombies." That's fine. You don't need to be a convincing zombie in that sense.
yeah,
And obviously, this is a movie with a clear message. Night of the Living Dead was obviously about race,
yeah,
but this is obviously about consumerism, capitalism, and the zombies flocking to the mall and forcing their way into the stores, completely oblivious to what's going on around
yeah,
them.
exactly. Like
Yeah.
they fall into their routine.
Yeah.
As, you know, in many ways, Joe, we are all zombies already.
Yeah,
is
I think
what
that's the
George
point.
Romero is trying to say.
The subtext is perhaps so obvious that it's heavy-handed.
It's just text.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I thought what was quite strange was the ghetto invasion scene at the start. Like, given that this is pretty much a follow-up, I don't know I guess you'd consider it a direct sequel or like an indirect sequel.
It's not the characters,
Yeah.
it's the same universe. Yeah.
To Night of the Living Dead, as you said, which was about racial tension and relations and all that sort of thing. This opens with like an assault on a ghetto, which is full of black and Hispanic people.
Yeah, and they're saying, "I'm going to kill the
Yeah, like
racial
equating
epithets,
them with monsters, saying they're like there's references to them being like tribal and like voodoo and all that sort of thing. They're like they're all in there, and it's very much like white police officers versus black and Hispanic police officers.
But the policeman even says, "I'm going to."
There's the racist police officer.
Yeah, and he says, "I'm looking forward to killing these people."
It's really odd.
Yeah.
Like it's really jarring, and like even with the politics of the time.
Yeah.
Like it's not like this was made, I don't know, like in the 1920s.
Right. Yeah.
But like it was a really odd, especially as the previous film. I think that's what jarred with me so much rewatching this, because of the fact that you know the previous film by the same director and everything. It's like about racial disharmony.
And then this one seems to be more of an exploitation.
Yeah, it's odd. It's really odd.
Okay, well, I like the capitalist consumerist subtext.
Yeah, definitely.
But there's also a religious subtext. I thought it was very clever to have the Hare Krishna. He was there. He was present with the other zombies in the mall, but he wasn't drawn towards the consumerism part. He wasn't going to, which gave him an ample chance to slip away and attack Francine.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of references like that. There's the Peter talks about his grandfather, who's a
voodoo priest.
Yeah. And it's got the infamous line, "When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth."
Yeah, exactly.
And there are a couple of great lines in this film, like really iconic. There's the newsreader at the start. There's the famous, the people they kill get up and kill. Like it's like there's loads of lines which could be the tagline for the film, which obviously.
When there's no more room in hell, the devil work the earth. Yeah.
Is the tagline.
Yes.
I like that. It's the dangers of the film come from society's like ill preparedness. There's the newsreader at the start, as we said, and he's talking about. We need to do these things, we need to do these things, and we need to do them now.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's about 3 weeks after the infection started or something like
early
that.
On,
So society hasn't completely collapsed, but it's, getting in that direction, which is why people are running away. But he's saying, we need to take these measures now, and, there's no time for being emotional or, you've got to do these things, otherwise
you get the scene with the scientist as well, and he's getting a bit frantic, and he says, you need to just kill him.
Yeah.
There's no two ways about it.
Yeah, which is something to bear in mind later on when we're talking about survival tips.
Exactly, that's true.
But yeah, it seems like the film is, it's as much about the danger of it comes as much from society as it does from the monsters themselves.
Yeah, exactly. And it turns out in the end of it, they kind of build a safe haven for themselves.
Yeah.
But then it's man who comes and spoils everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, like a lot of the sort of bad things that happen are the result of a sort of anarchic attitude. I often hear people saying like, if there was a zombie apocalypse, it would be great fun.
Yeah.
Which is mad.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
that they're the people that are going to get everyone killed.
Yeah.
And talking about like the anarchic attitude of some of the people in it, you said you found all the characters quite like relatively likeable.
Well, likeable in the sense of I didn't necessarily want them to die.
Right.
They weren't like
Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah, it wasn't like Shaun of the Dead where it's they're the he's your mate, you go to the pub with him.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I didn't really like the characters that much.
Really?
Like, Francine is the sort of female character that we've complained about in the past. I
Yeah.
think she's relatively, like, helpless until she learns how to fly the chopper.
True, but she apparently, my research tells me that Galen Ross, the lady who played Francine, she fought hard to have fight scenes included for her because she wanted to be a bit more of a heroine.
That's fair. I mean, like, there is the confrontation where she says, look, I get an equal vote here.
Yeah.
And they're like, sort of, oh, come on, Francine.
Yeah.
But
put the kettle on.
Stephen, I spent the whole film being distracted by how much he looks like Hugh Laurie. Like, just insanely like him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'll look back at it. I didn't.
If listener, look up a photo of Stephen from Dawn of the Dead. He's played by David Emger. It looks the spitting image of Hugh Laurie. I'm telling you, it's ridiculous. Peter is a good character, other than the scene where he, for some reason, knows how to abort a fetus.
Yeah.
Which was weird. And then Roger is
and not only knows how, but advises it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a bizarre scene. And Roger, who is, we'll talk about when we're talking about the survival tips, but he's maybe the closest to the anarchic sort of person out of the four of them.
So I want to talk about a few key scenes, which, I mean, this is where the sort of story diverges and there is a chance for survival, and we learn a bit more about the threat of these zombies. So the first one is the scene where the three guys take the department store.
Sure.
It's a little confusing because I think they go out a couple of times, adding about 25 minutes to the running time.
Yeah.
Which could have been one scene, but it wasn't. So basically, the three men are out there, they get the department store, and they're able to distract the zombies into going upstairs and downstairs while they can slip past and do steal things to survive with. It's important because it shows us that the zombies are willing to follow any distraction, and they're pretty incapable of working out that they're being tricked. And they also stay in one place for a long time.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, like they, like I was saying, sorry to return to it again, but I feel like, especially Roger, they take an unhealthy amount of enjoyment out of the whole process. A little, they're having too much fun.
Right. Yeah.
Like it doesn't.
He's going,
I know. Like in terms of the tone of the film, that's.
He's
fine.
he's almost annoying it how much he starts to woohoo.
Yeah,
woohoo,
exactly. Yeah,
it's
like again, we'll talk about this later when we're talking about survival tips, maybe.
Yeah.
But I think what's good is that they're running between floors and grabbing things, looting things, and they're saying, "Oh, let's grab a TV and let's do that and all that sort of thing." Even though they're joking, it does match up with the themes of consumerism. Like even the people who are still alive are exactly the same as the zombies because they're like running around like children in this store.
Yeah.
Like
can't believe their luck, can they?
Exactly. Yeah. But it's a bit like it's one of the scenes that I think. Like I said, it obviously matches the tone of the film, but if you're watching it as a sort of horror film, it's one of the scenes that sort of like makes you not take it as seriously as you always could.
But then if it wasn't made to be the horror film that we
no,
watch
of course,
as,
I guess like because people of our generation, we've probably seen Dawn of the Dead 2004 version, which is a very like bleak and brutal and sober, you know.
It's actually a good remake.
It's actually it's a really good remake
because it doesn't corrupt. I mean, it doesn't take this subtext in any way. It just makes a zombie survivor then a more sort of film. Yeah,
exactly. Cool. Like it doesn't. It loses the satirical element of it, but that's not necessarily a bad thing.
The second scene I want to mention is the one where they're trying to block the doors with the lorries.
Yeah.
And Stephen's supporting them in the helicopter, and it tells us something about keeping a cool head.
Yeah.
We mentioned that Roger is a bit of a live wire, and despite the fact that the zombies pose pretty much zero threat unless you put your foot in their mouth.
Yeah.
And Peter telling him to keep calm, Roger loses his shit and he gets bitten. But I honestly don't think you should be worrying around those zombies because they're not. The only thing that could really be a threat is if you got swarmed by them.
Yeah.
And they're not in a position where.
Yeah, they're not like you see throughout the film really that like even if you've got a couple of them coming at you, they're relatively easy to fend off.
Yeah.
Like no one gets scratched, for example, which is sometimes something that you see in zombie films. You know, like The Walking Dead is a very if you've seen the TV show The Walking Dead, the zombies in that are very aggressive and like literally anything like a scratch or will infect you.
Yes, but it's not really clear what part of it turns you into the zombie.
Yeah, well, it's because it's the recently deceased, in inverted commas, is what are the ones that come back to life. So you don't have skeletons walking around. You don't have like desiccated corpses walking around.
Yeah.
Night of the Living Dead, assuming it is consistent, that that it's her brother that rises out the grave that she's just buried him in.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you do see Roger, as you say in this scene, Roger gets bitten. But even a human in the real world, if they bit you, you would get an infection from it if you weren't treated.
And if you didn't have the medicine you needed.
Yeah, so
we learn that death from being bitten by a zombie is fairly slow, but it is also inevitable and you'll come back. But we don't know much more about what can pass it on. Just that a bite will kill you. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's not clear whether if you shot a healthy man to death,
whether he would die and come back.
Yeah.
That's something else to bear in mind. When we talk about how to survive, but one more scene is the scene where the biker gang assault the building. Yeah,
and this is like I guess this scene and the previous scene is sort of like where everything starts falling apart.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, at this point, Roger is dead, so they only have.
There's only 3 of them left.
Yeah, and Francine's pregnant, so she's not running around risking her life.
Yeah,
it really comes down to Stephen and Peter, who strap themselves up with guns, and but yeah, they get swarmed pretty quickly, and it's just absolute mayhem and real anarchy. That's the part of the film where it falls apart. Then it goes slapstick. It's all very weird. Yeah. They're putting pies in people's faces.
Yeah, that's the bit that it didn't. I just lose the film a little bit there for me. Like it sort of becomes so over the top. And like it's not even there are jokes to be had by the zombies when they turn on the escalators. Yeah, they'll just fall over. That's a funny sight gag, that sort of thing. But like why? Like, just imagine for a second that you're a biker in a post-apocalyptic America. Yeah. You've been riding around for months, right? You see a helicopter going up. There's a shopping mall over there. Let's see if we can, like, grab some supplies or whatever. Like, if I said to you, let's all, like, we'll bike over.
Yeah, we'll go over. I've got the whipped cream as well.
Why have you got... What?
Well, we're going to put the cream pies in their faces, aren't we?
Well, why would we do that? I mean, we've got clubs. Like, why would a cream pie doesn't...
It'd be funny, wouldn't it?
But why?
In case anyone's watching, and anyone who's not in the fight, they'd find that funny, wouldn't they?
Well, I don't understand why. My wife is dead. Like, I've got to feed my child here.
But what I'm saying
my best friend died yesterday.
We've got all this. We've been running around for days with all this whipped cream. We've got to do something.
Why did you bring that? I told you to bring the beans. You filled up the trailer with fucking whipped cream. Yeah, you're a madman.
Well, I honestly, I think what we need. I mean, we're called the Cream Angels, yeah?
Cream Angels. Yeah.
We're called the Hell's Angels Delight.
Fuck's sake. Oh, yeah. But like by that point in the film, they might as well be fucking having a pillow fight. Yeah. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. In that scene as well, there's the guy who gets his arm trapped in the blood pressure. Yeah. Sort of, and it inflates, but to the point where he can't move and gets eaten by zombies.
Because in the post-apocalyptic world, even blood pressure monitors are against you.
It's I mean that it does definitely jump the shark, doesn't it? The film.
Yeah, I think so. Like I wonder because as I said, we watched the sort of longest version of the film that there is. Yeah. I wonder if like that is trimmed down and is a bit better, a bit more tonally consistent.
You'd hope so.
Because actually, like the scenes before that, I said it's not really like a horror film. But there is something like weirdly existential about the life that they're living there. Yeah, like, the shots of her like ice skating alone. Yeah, and like they have that dinner that Peter cooks for them and stuff.
Yeah, that's weird. And they're just sort of going grocery shopping. And they come home, they watch TV. Yeah, and they have an argument about what to put on TV, whether they have TV on when they're eating. Yeah, it's all very sort of nuclear family and weird.
Yeah, it's odd, isn't it? Mm. I think one of the best scenes of the film is probably like an iconic scene is the where Roger actually reanimates. Yeah. And I think there's something about that which links into this sort of weird existence that they're in. Yeah. Because it's like Peter just sits opposite him and he's just waiting. Mm. And he's just waiting for like death and then waiting for it to come back. And it's like that's all they're doing in life. That's all they've got left to do is just wait. But yeah, like that biking, that all goes out the window as soon as the bikers show up, really. It's just like...
and it's sort of like... I mean, the bikers, the point of having them in the film is to show that it's man's mistreatment of man that's going to corrupt anyway, right? Yeah, that's the most evil thing. The zombies are just a plot device.
Yeah, you have to worry, like, when we're talking about survival, you have to worry about the other humans as much as you have to do about the zombies.
Exactly. So the ending, how did you find that?
Well, I don't think I've seen a film which has so obviously got had another ending written for it.
Yeah.
Because they literally box the two main characters into inescapable corners, basically, and then just go, no.
He changes his mind.
Yeah, exactly.
He basically says, "You take me, you zombies," but then he's like, "No, I'm gonna go up on the roof. I'm gonna get in the helicopter, which is already left."
Yeah. Like it's crazy because I don't know if you know, but the original ending
had her being decapitated by the chopper.
Yeah, and Peter shoots himself. Like literally that scene, that very scene where he's holding a gun to his head. The original was he actually shot himself.
Yeah.
And then Francine, when she sees the zombies walking out, throws her head into the propeller blades
on purpose.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's suicide.
Very bleak.
And then the credits would roll over the helicopter blades spinning and then whirring down, showing that they wouldn't have got far anyway. They wouldn't have had the fuel to get very far anyway. But instead of that, they've got, well, let's see what happens. And then they just fly off into the sunset. She doesn't seem bothered even that the father of her child is dead.
It kind of feels like if they were going to do the someone survives ending, just swap Peter and Stephen.
Yeah.
And you've got the ending neat, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You've got the happy ending. So yeah, it's very weird. So those are the key scenes. And what do we know at the end of that? So heading into a survival method, we know that these zombies are slow indeed. Mm-hmm. You can distract them. If they bite you, you will die and turn into a zombie. But we don't know about scratching or licking or anything.
Yeah, it's not determined either whether or not if you say you got bitten on the hand and you cut the hand off, would that, is it like literally a bloodborne type thing?
Right, so a blood to blood.
Yeah. Or like saliva to blood and then it infects you. Like it's not really specified, is it?
Exactly. So we don't know that for sure. All we know is biting is the danger. You can get close to them, and we even see one of them get thrown off a balcony. So we know you can at least pick them up without sort of cross-contamination, I guess.
Yeah.
The strength of the zombies is something which I think is open to debate, because even though most of the time they seem to barely be capable of holding up the weight of their own heads, you get the Hare Krishna one, who's able to force down a door with a sort of conscious and sentient woman trying to hold it back.
Yeah, it's the tambourine that he's holding.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
Well, like also their strength, the strength of their bite is like weird as well, because like there's no suggestion that they somehow take on like, other than the fact that they're returned from the dead. Yeah. They don't have like super strength. Right?
No, exactly.
But there's the scene in the Ghetto assault at the start where a woman's delighted to see her husband is alive again, and then realises that he's a zombie. Yeah. And the zombie husband takes a bite out of her shoulder, and it like comes away like a cake. It's like a sponge. So like, I mean, maybe that's just bad special effects.
Yeah, I dare say that's the case.
Yeah. Or old special effects.
I mean, you do get. I mean, you could bite through someone's flesh of their shoulder. You could bite through someone's calf. Yeah. I don't think that's too much of a stretch.
Yeah, fair. Yeah. But they don't seem to have really any sort of supernatural strength or.
No, I think generally they're weak. They can't even. But the thing is, one of them at one point is holding up a gun. Yeah. The one who gets the gun. If I gave you a gun now and said hold that above your head for 2 days, you'd get sore. Yeah. Yeah. But
the one thing we do know as well that the film shows is that they take on the subconscious habits of the person who's dead. Yeah. So like the zombies that are in the shopping mall are there because it's their routine. Their person's routine. Yeah. So do you think the guy holding a gun to his head died holding a gun to his head? Like that was his last thought, was to kill himself, but didn't quite make it.
I think you're putting a lot more into this than George A. Romero intended. But I like the idea. Yeah. Yeah. That's
but like it's the last. It seems to be the last thought.
Yeah.
That ends up transferring.
Yes.
Because Stephen, when Stephen dies, he returns to the upstairs, their hidden,
the safe house.
Which is what he was going to do anyway. Which was the last thing that he was going to do. Right. He doesn't go back to whatever. He doesn't go back to working on TV news, does he?
No. He goes immediate to the immediate muscle memory. Yeah. So you think all these zombies were on their way to the mall?
Maybe, yeah. Could be. And I'm going to come back to that when we discuss how to survive, Joe.
You are?
Yes.
Well, so am I, actually. I think that was something that we were bound to both pick up on. So, Chris, I want to ask you now, it's what we were here for. How would you survive Dawn of the Dead 1978?
Well, as we said, the intro scene, the newsreader is begging people to let go of their sort of emotional attachment to the situation because it's the only way they're going to survive.
These aren't your family members,
Yeah, which is, he says, the people are already dead, they're not your family anymore, they're not your husband, your wife or whatever. So obviously, you should take his advice and detach yourself emotionally from the situation.
Right.
But I would go one step further than that and also say, don't have fun.
Right, yeah.
Because all the people who have a cavalier attitude to this post-apocalyptic scenario end up dead.
Right.
And it's, as we were saying, it's the man versus man, which ends up dooming everyone. But also man's attitude of just fuck it, it's the apocalypse. Let's just do what we want.
Exactly. Jason Bourne wouldn't be.
Jason Bourne, he wouldn't be
sodding around in a shop stealing things, would he?
Yeah, exactly. So you get Roger. Obviously, he ends up going a bit. It's like he's coked up.
Yeah.
He's driving around laughing, cackling, woohooing, and all that.
Yeah.
You've got all the bikers. They're the same. They all end up dead.
They don't approach it with the presence of mind that is required.
No, exactly. And similarly, the racist SWAT man.
Yeah.
At the start, he also is deriving far too much pleasure out of the situation.
Yeah, he's killing people and he's loving it.
Yeah, so there's a condition actually called anhedonia,
right.
which is, I think it's called that. If I'm wrong, then email in.
Please write in.
Yeah, howtosurviveshow@gmail.com. I think it's called anhedonia,
right.
which is an inability to derive pleasure from things.
Okay, so develop that.
Yeah, exactly. And so detach yourself emotionally, both in terms of sentimentality and also in terms of having fun.
Well,
and you'll be in a good place with that pragmatic attitude to survive.
Okay, I like it. Although we do see some characters have fun, but they don't die. For instance, Francine goes ice skating, and I assume that's not a solemn undertaking. She must derive some pleasure from it.
That's true, but it seems like there's a difference between Francine going ice skating. Maybe she's exercising, she's trying to keep herself fit, she's trying to keep her baby fit.
Yes.
Right? That is a survival instinct in of itself. But I would argue that there's a difference between that and looting a department store.
There's also something of a boredom about how she does it.
Exactly, the shot of her doing it I think is great.
Yeah.
Because it's just empty, and she's just going through the motions almost. It's almost, Joe, like she's a zombie already.
Ooh, there we are. Satire.
How to survive.
Okay, well I'd like to give you one of my proposals for survival.
Sure.
So you may remember back in episode 2, we did It Follows.
Yes.
And we talked about if you wanted to keep away from that particular monster, you'd only need to go about 70 miles a day at a time. Because that's the fastest it could walk.
Yeah.
These guys are much slower.
Okay.
And there's the added benefit that they're not tracking you through any sort of supernatural force. So here's what I say. We have a helicopter that's available to us, and we know how to fly it if we're Stephen or Francine towards the end. So I propose you start a massive fire, perhaps set fire to the mall to draw in a lot of attention.
Sure.
At which point you take off, fly in any direction for 70 miles, set it down, and you're laughing your head off.
Okay.
Assuming you're not going into another patch of zombies.
Yeah, assuming that... So are you saying that all zombies are... Because the zombies are everywhere.
Yeah.
The reason that tactic works with It Follows is because there's
only one of
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas...
There are hundreds of... There's millions of zombies.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you've protected yourself. I mean, I would say that it's overkill if you're doing that to fly 70 miles if you've set fire to the shopping centre.
But you're not just killing the zombies in the shopping centre.
No, you're escaping away.
You're drawing them in.
Yeah, but you're not going to draw them in from 70 miles away.
The shopping centre is very big. I think you'd see it from a long way away.
Okay, but how do you know? You're making an assumption.
Right.
Rule 3, we can't assume.
Yeah.
You're making an assumption
the zombies are drawn to fire.
Yeah, or that from 70 miles away, they're going to be more interested in that than the helicopter that's just landed, like the big noisy box full of meat that's just landed 200 yards away.
Okay, well, fair point.
Yeah.
So perhaps...
also the petrol situation is one that's difficult.
Yeah.
For the helicopter, and also, I mean, they're wasting it a little bit by flying about, like teaching Francine how to fly.
Yeah, that's not very sensible. Does it just run on normal petrol?
I wouldn't have thought so.
Because I was thinking this, they do stop at a petrol station and just get, say, petrol or diesel.
Right.
But I did plan to do some research and say, how far could you get on a gallon of petrol for this particular model of helicopter? I didn't do that.
So, I mean, they could potentially go into the car park and get all the petrol out of all the cars.
Just siphon it out.
Yeah.
It's laziness.
Yeah.
So
too busy ice skating and running around.
Perhaps, if you don't set fire to them all, think of an alternative distraction.
Okay.
That is enough of a pull factor that is going to draw the zombies away from you, and you can just nip past them.
There's for an interesting comparison. I don't know if any of the listeners watch the TV show The Walking Dead. I mentioned it earlier. The start of this series, they I hope this isn't too much of a spoiler, but they have a plan to deal with a large group of zombies by using articulated lorries and a quarry. So like they draw the herd of zombies down through the quarry with a truck blaring its horn, and then seal off. The idea is to seal the quarry off.
Trap them.
Yeah. But obviously, as is the way of these things, it doesn't quite go to plan.
No.
But yeah, that's that's a technique that's been endorsed by The Walking Dead.
Yeah, which is the most popular zombie franchise ever, probably.
Probably, yeah. Well, Dawn of the or Dawn of the Dead. I don't know.
Of the Dead series is obviously probably in film, but I think most people in
it's massive, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like it's probably
it's bigger than Lost was, and everyone watched Lost, didn't they?
Yeah,
everyone did.
It's like probably one of the most popular shows, other than like Game of Thrones and
Breaking Bad, maybe.
Yeah. So my second survival idea is based on the scene where they're flying the helicopter and they see the people in the country, and they're in a much better situation basically. They've got long lines of sight everywhere they go, guns are plenty because it's rural America.
Yeah,
and it's obviously like urban sprawl is a big point of this film. Thematically, it's the dangers of the urban sprawl and overpopulation and things like that. And obviously, getting out of the city is always the best idea. And so my suggestion is to relocate ahead of the apocalypse. Go on daytime television show Escape to the Country.
Okay. Now go on, but I do have one concern with this.
Well, yeah, Escape to the Country. You sell your house in the city, and go and live in the country. And then you'll be in a much better situation. You'll be watching it on TV going, God, it's really bad in Philadelphia. I'm glad I don't work for the network TV news station in there. I'm glad I relocated my life to the country to write my novel. I
don't disagree that that's exactly what happened. But so let me get this straight. It's 1978 in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And you're going to watch the TV show that airs in Britain in 2015.
Yeah.
Called Escape to the Country.
Yeah.
I think might be breaking rule 1 and 2 there.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Okay, the Escape to the Country. Let's lose the Escape to the Country specificity.
Yeah, just Escape to the Country in general.
Yeah, right. Leave for a rural environment.
But again, I think that's still living outside of the characters'
motivations.
Exactly, because they're not going to be aware that there's an apocalypse coming.
Okay. Yeah, no, I understand what you mean. I mean, like in terms of a survival tip for anyone who's listening, maybe the apocalypse has happened and you've found an old iPod. And it's got this podcast on. Just get out of the city.
Yeah.
It's never going to end well.
No, exactly.
I mean, there's no zombie fiction that features people doing well out of staying in a city, is there?
I Am Legend. It's vampires, isn't it?
He's not doing well. He's literally the last person alive on Earth. Well,
spoiler alert.
No, that's not the spoiler. That's the setup at the start of the film. The spoiler would be if I said that he's not the last person to be alive in the world. Spoilers.
Spoiler alert for I Am Legend.
Yeah.
He does die.
Yeah.
They fuck out, don't they? Because I've read the book. He's supposed to become the legend by being sacrificed.
Yeah. Because he becomes the legend to the vampire race.
Yeah, because they crucify him.
Yeah.
But in this one, he blows himself up?
He blows himself up with a grenade.
Hollywood.
The end. Spoilers there for I Am Legend.
Yeah.
Sorry if you haven't seen it, but it is 11 years old or something. So
Well, we didn't do a spoiler warning up top for Dawn of the Dead either.
Never mind.
Spoilers alert.
We've had nearly 40 years to watch it.
Yeah. If you haven't seen it by now, I think
I bet, like, you know, we're talking about how influential it is. I bet most people know the cliche of if there's a zombie apocalypse, people will hide in a shopping mall. It's like an accepted thing, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, I always say, that's, you know, obviously we've all had that conversation.
Yeah.
And honestly, go to the supermarket.
So is that your next survival tip?
No. The next one is, it begins with the acknowledgement that the zombies are able to climb.
Okay.
Or at least walk over obstacles, as we see with the example of the gentleman who stands on a box and is decapitated by a helicopter. It's quite a cool scene. So I'd say take the helicopter, which we know you have.
Yeah.
Fly into the mountains, not like directly. Don't fly into that. Fly up into a promontory.
The Catskills.
And build a hut.
Okay.
With a wall around it.
Okay.
And live there.
Right. What did that have to do with the helicopter blades?
They can climb. But that doesn't help, does it?
No, you've just said, bear in mind that zombies can climb. So build a wall. build a wall up a mountain.
Well, maybe, okay, fuck what I just said. let me try again.
No, I want this to continue from where we are, because this is funny.
Okay, well, put barbed wire around the top of the wall.
Okay.
Because then even if they climb up, they'll get snagged.
Yeah.
And you've just got like, oh, what are you going to do? Climb down now, you're stuck.
Why did you go off on the tangent? Just because someone could climb on the box?
Okay,
I thought what you were going to say was
point...
build a settlement which incorporated the helicopter blades.
Right.
So anyone trying to climb over the wall would just be decapitated by the helicopter blades.
I think it was more a demonstration. That's the demonstration in the film that they do climb.
Right. But they do it mindlessly.
Yeah, exactly. So if you were to build a structure where they had the opportunity to climb, but you had a
thing at the top, they wouldn't take that into account.
Exactly.
What if you had like you could do like sort of, you know, those tank spike things that they have on beaches in World War II, those sorts of things, just like many annoying things for them to have to climb over.
Yeah, and you'd presume that they get their sort of sagging skin snagged on something, or just enough layers of fortification. Yeah, that they could by all means try and climb over, but at the end of the day, they can't keep going forever, can they?
Well, I mean, can't they though?
Well, we don't know that, do we?
Yeah, because they don't.
They're not shown to die of starvation.
No, and they don't appear to be eating necessarily to sustain themselves.
No.
An interesting quandary.
But in any case, make it difficult for them to get to you, whether by climbing, and with traps in between, so they can probably die or get maimed. Yeah. And even if they got snagged, you can go over and hit them in the head with a baseball bat. Yeah, that's true. So that's my second plan for survival. Have you got a third?
I do. This is probably going to be the most controversial one.
Okay. More controversial than watch something that won't be made for 40 years.
Yeah. Okay. So we were discussing earlier, people appear to return to their routines.
Yes.
When turning into a zombie.
Mm-hmm.
Either their routine or their last thought.
Yeah.
Right. Something that was important in their head, basically. You know, like a subconscious brain thing. So what I am suggesting is dedicate your life to thinking about or devising a cure for being a zombie. Right. And so even in death, you will continue to work on your experiments and your calculations.
Might be a bit slower.
But like you've got time. As we said, we don't have any evidence to suggest that the zombies don't just sustain themselves supernaturally.
But by your rationale, it would have to be that even when being bitten by another zombie, you'd have to be thinking about that.
No, but you would like you've talked to me previously about mindfulness, right? So you would, from the sheer power of thought, just dedicate your mind. Like, people can do this. People can meditate and all that sort of thing. So as the teeth are sinking into your flesh, just dedicate every.
I suppose if anything, you're going to be thinking about a cure for zombies when there's a zombie attacking you. You'd be going, I really wish I had a cure for zombies.
Yeah, I really wish I was. I must continue my work, even in death, finding a cure for zombies. Because if you stumble across the cure for zombies, for being a zombie, you'll cure yourself, because you'll be going through the motions of testing the zombie cure. And you'll probably, there's a good chance,
experiment on yourself.
And you'll overcome the
mean, is there a good chance?
I think there's a very good chance.
I'm not a biologist. So if I did that, the most I get out of it is...
Here's what I'll say to you, Joe.
Yeah.
Given an infinite time frame, Monkey would type the complete works of Shakespeare on a typewriter.
So but we don't have an infinite time frame.
How do you know that we don't have an infinite time frame?
The sun will explode.
Well, yeah, but if in that case, the zombie issue is the least of your problems.
I suppose so. Or maybe set your thoughts to stopping the sun from exploding, turning into a white dwarf.
So what you need to do is make an internal list in your head, and item 1 is find a cure for being a zombie.
Yeah.
And item 2 is stop the sun
from
transforming into a white dwarf and exploding in you.
It's a sense of priority. You need to have that ingrained in your subconscious as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I like it.
I think it's a bulletproof plan.
Okay. But if it doesn't work, and I've one quick survival thing, which is don't drink wine while you're pregnant.
Yeah.
Right. Which she does in the film repeatedly. But this one is more about if all else fails and you know you're going to become a zombie, or you've come to terms with the fact that So I don't think it's unfair to say that Peter's idea of when there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth is kind of the motivating factor here. Yeah. It's used in the promotional material for the film, so obviously Romero didn't think it was such a bad suggestion.
Line.
Exactly, yeah. It's clear that could be the case. He also says a second line for Peter, which is important. Wake up, sucker. We're thieves and we're bad guys. That's exactly what we are. So here's what I'm saying. The thing to do is to repent on your sins.
Yeah.
Lead a good Christian life. Help your neighbours. Keep your nose clean. And generally be a do-gooder. And then when you die, if you get bitten by a zombie,
doesn't matter.
You won't go to hell. You'll be transported to heaven, which isn't full.
That's very true.
Yeah. Well, we don't know that, but we're
assuming.
We'd assume, yeah. Well, I'll assume that's a safe bet. So
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I mean, you are using the logic that's present in the film.
Yeah.
If hell exists, presumably it subscribes to, presumably it's a
good and evil sort of thing.
Yeah. It's correct that some sort of theology is correct. Maybe it's better to practice multi-faith, repentance, living by all the major religions simultaneously to maximise your chances of whichever one being right.
Yeah, exactly. So it's Pascal's wager, isn't it? To simply act like you believe in God on the basis that it might get you into heaven.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Yep. So I think we're fully equipped with how to survive now, and we've thrown it open to you, the listener. And we've got one letter here, which is actually a follow-up on a question we asked back in the Friday the 13th Part 2 episode.
Okay.
All those weeks ago. Has there ever been a good sequel to a slasher film?
Okay.
And Nick Cotton has written in.
Hello, Nick.
Hi, Nick. He says Scream 2, just as good as the first, but more stylised, and the character that dies that survived the first film gets you right in the gut. And an honourable mention as well for Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Not as good as the original, but a very interesting concept. Really enjoy what you guys are doing and keep it up. Thanks very much for the kind words there, Nick.
Yeah, thanks very much for emailing in.
And by the way, listener, Nick's won himself an Amazon voucher. Do you know why? Because he emailed in and you didn't.
We know you didn't.
Yeah.
Because we had one email. One entry, and you'd have had a 50-50 shot.
Yep.
Of winning £20 Amazon voucher. But Nick, you won it.
Yeah.
And your suggestions we will get to in good time.
Yeah. I think in the next few weeks we've got Scream 2 scheduled in. It's
scheduled in. We should figure out a way to put the schedule in some form online.
Yeah. Well, we do have a website, howtosurviveshow.com. And by all means, do visit that. You'll find all of our back catalogue,
and as well as links to subscribe on iTunes.
Yeah.
Or
if you haven't seen the films, you can buy them through Amazon. So thanks, Nick, for that email. We have another letter in. This is about Dawn of the Dead, so back on track.
Okay.
This is from Matt, who's a fairly regular correspondent. He says, Dawn of the Dead, slow as you like. The mall worked. They had a good hidden location with the partition. Stay quiet and hidden from invaders. Clear out the mall and plug up any entrances and barricade them up. And make sure you have an escape route, sewers or roof. Which, to be fair, I think they did most of those things, but it was that escape route that was it was actually
their
Achilles heel.
Yeah, it was actually the escape route that led to their downfall because by showing Francine how to pilot the helicopter in order to escape
their position.
Exactly. Yeah.
There is one more email in. I wasn't necessarily expecting this one.
Okay.
Good day, my dear. In confidence, I have to introduce myself, for I am Miss Rose Richard, 21 years old. I am the only child of late Mr. and Mrs. Eve Richard. I prayed before contacting you. Please, for God's sake, do not see my mail as embarrassment, as we do not know each other. I wish to request for your assistance in my efforts to procure the transfer of my inherited money for investment ventures under your care and directive, while I continue my education of there in your country. I inherited $6,400,000 here in my name with one of the prime bank in my country, and I will require your assistance in receiving the transfer of my inherited money in your local account for investment purposes, as it is my wish to come over to your country to further my education while you take care of the investment of the money. Please, I am an orphan, and I need your assistance to transfer my inherited money to your country, and also your assistance to secure a nice school for me in your country where I will continue my education. Please, I am waiting to hear from you soonest. Yours sincerely, Miss Rose Richard.
Wow, okay.
I did reply.
Yeah.
I said, "Hi Rose, thanks for emailing. How would you survive if you were in Dawn of the Dead, 1978?
Okay.
And Rose replied,
Yeah.
"Good day to you, dear. I would like to thank you for your time spent responding to my mail with the fact that of not knowing whom am I, and I also thank Almighty who lead me to you for your acceptance to help me out of my present condition. I want you to know all you have read about my life story is only but the truth, while I come to you with all my life and hope that I may gain from you. Please, I will like to know if you have an account where the money can be safely transferred into for me to come over there to further my education as you invest the money in any profitable business of your choice. Thank you, and may God bless you as you get back to me, Miss Rose Richard."
Okay. Is she looking to invest in the podcast?
I think so.
Yeah.
But I mean, I want to get her credentials right first.
Yeah, no, of course, yeah. No.
So I said, "Rose, before I answer your questions, I need to know, how would you survive in Dawn of the Dead 1978? And she says, "Hello dear, how are you doing? I receive your massage, but not understand. Please tell me, what do you mean by that? And please, if you really want to help, so that I will know what to do. Thank and God bless. Yours, Rose." I said, "Hi Rose, I host a podcast about surviving in movies. The next episode is about the movie Dawn of the Dead, 1978. My question is, if you have found yourself living as a character in that movie, what would you do to survive?" And she says, "Dear, thank for your massage. If found myself in this character, I will pray God to help me."
Okay. Well, that actually links into what your
Exactly.
final survival thing is talking about.
So thanks to Rose for emailing in,
Okay.
and thanks to Matt and to Nick as well.
Well, what it shows you is, because obviously we've sent the money to Rose now.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So that is the reason to email into the show.
Yeah.
Because Nick and Rose, 2/3 of our listenership have profited financially.
Yeah, exactly.
From emailing in, and I'm sure it's only a matter of time before we get sent the 6 million.
Is it 6 million?
I think so. Yeah.
Because we had
There's dollars.
we had to transfer the 10% of the 6 million,
Okay. Yeah.
and
That's what we did.
that's with her now.
Yeah.
So she's going to give that back to us when
account-
once the bank sorts it out for her.
Okay.
So don't worry about it.
Yeah. Has she replied since?
No. Well, she said she's going to pray to God for the.
Okay.
About
No,
the movie.
that's fine.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, Rose, and thank you, Nick and Matt, for emailing in.
Mm-hmm. Next week we're talking 28 Days Later, the 2002 movie about life in London in 2002. If you were to be infected with the rage virus.
So, thanks very much for listening.
Yeah.
As ever, the email is howtosurviveshow@gmail.com.
Yeah.
The website is howtosurviveshow.com.
Yeah, and if you have any love for us, and if you ever loved us, please leave a review on iTunes and say 5 stars. Well, I won't put words in your mouth. You can say what you want about it, but
Yeah.
as long as it's 5 stars.
Yeah, I won't put words in your mouth, but I will put stars on your counter.
Yeah.
So thanks very much.
Yep.
And we'll see you next week. God bless.
I've got a good sign off. No, that's rubbish.